Hi, my name is Susan Hentz. I had the opportunity to present at the National CEC Conference in Indianapolis in January. Our topic was building a solid foundation for inclusive practices. I also conducted a networking roundtable session for learners to increase their understanding of student engagement in the inclusive classroom. We are providing you with continual learning opportunity in April of this year on student engagement. So let's begin. The highly engaged inclusive classroom is imperative for teachers to meet the needs of all learners in their classroom. There are three key components I'd like to address during this presentation. What are the key components of student engagement? How do you define student engagement? And what are active learning strategies? How do teachers maximize instructional time with such diverse learners in the classroom? Classroom management is essential. Building community, understanding the physical arrangement needs, and active learning opportunities are imperative for students to be included in the classroom structure. Why student engagement? Research states that there's a release of dopamine, and those neurotransmitters increase student energy level and assist brains to store and retrieve this information. So important for our learners in that classroom. All learners benefit using these active strategies. So for this to occur, we need to make sure that we actually plan to develop a positive emotional environment, create a physical environment conducive to interaction for learners, and plan for that engagement process to occur. To begin with, I'd like to define student engagement. Student engagement is listening, participating, being present. But most importantly, student engagement is having the students intellectually engage in the challenging content through well-designed learning tasks fully aligned with the instructional outcomes. When we're doing this in the planning process, the sky is the limit for student achievement. So let's begin with the emotional environment. Building community will increase the student engagement. We know that a consistent classroom management plan is imperative. Teachers need to plan for this classroom management. Students will need to practice procedures enough to execute them in a routine fashion. From walking in the door, how we're turning in papers, how we're responding to teacher questions, and how we're working together in the classroom environment. There needs to be an intensive effort to connect with learners. It is a non-negotiable prerequisite for engagement to occur in your classroom. We do understand that teachers need to know their learners in order to build community. Effective teaching is often a result of the quality of the relationship between the student and the teacher. Providing affirmation for students and telling students they're capable of doing well, using specific praise, written feedback, and continual opportunities for success in the classroom. Encouraging and designing the classroom for interaction. The physical environment is conducive to understanding the needs of learners and where you will place those learners in the classroom setting for optimum performance and success. Arranging the classroom for interaction, not only when they're working together, but when you're providing direct instruction to mini groups. How does that class look? How do you need to set that up? How do you need to move your learners throughout the day for optimum performance in the classroom? And then planning for the engagement process. Many teachers spend ample time working with others to plan the curriculum. Planning the curriculum using the standards. But most importantly in this engaged classroom is planning the activities for students to make sense of their learning. Are they comprehending the material? Are you giving them enough wait time to process that information? Are all students able to be successful in that inclusive classroom through engaging activities? So in essence, a teacher's role is to arrange for learning. That is a teacher's essential responsibility to design or select or adapt those learning activities so that students can learn the important content that we're asking them to learn. Not only do we have to target that instructional process, but we have to understand the needs of the learners and how they're going to have to show what they know. And how are we going to assess that learning for each of the learners based on their diverse abilities in the classroom? A great example of this is when students are coming in the door. Many teachers across the nation are using bell work or do now activities. How often are all learners able to complete that activity with success? It's a little change of mindset to begin your day with success starters. You give them something to do immediately upon arrival. However, we need to be more selective on those tasks. We need to provide them with successes in the opening minutes of the classroom structure. We need to link it to the goal. We need to be able to provide opportunities for them to make real-world connections. I like to say that many students, when they walk in, think WIIFM. What is in it for me? Is this interesting? Does it matter to me? Can I do this? I would say more often than not, our learners are not being successful when they walk in the door. And oftentimes after the bell work and after they are feeling unsuccessful because they were not able to complete the bell work, we are then collecting or correcting homework. Those same learners were unsuccessful doing their homework. So it's time for us to start thinking. It's almost like going to a movie. In the first 5 to 7 minutes, you will realize if you want to be in that movie or if maybe you chose the wrong movie to go to. Why aren't we providing that opportunity for our learners in the classroom? Can we make this interesting? Can we have it matter to them? And are we providing them an opportunity to be successful as soon as they walk in the door? In order to do this, we are able to provide them with some opportunities for success in the classroom. Can we provide them with strategies and tools such as word sorts, or maybe plan for a success starter, surveys or predictions about what they think is going to happen that day? Maybe we're going on a journey to a really destination they've never heard of. But they know they're going to be bringing a group of people with them on this journey. Have them in a small group select who they might want to bring on that journey. We can narrow this down for them. Maybe you can select 5 individuals to go on this journey with you. Who would you select? There are no wrong or right answers. It allows them the opportunity to process what you're looking for. You're setting them up for success. And then maybe you will be bringing up a journey in that novel that they will be reading. Another thing that you can do is sorting activities. Possibly yesterday you talked about adjectives and nouns. As they walk in, they are blanketing the table with adjectives and nouns as teams. And then we can do a sort label. They're sorting them into adjectives and nouns and then labeling. Again, creating opportunities for success for our learners. Imperative, if we want them to be engaged and we want them to feel like they can be successful in our inclusive classroom. So there are some probing questions that I like to ask you. What active learning strategies can be used to address each statement? Are there ways that we can hold students accountable to respond, such as whiteboards? Maybe turn and talk to your neighbor. Think, pair, share, square. So many strategies that are at our fingertips, but we need to plan to integrate them into our lessons so all learners are included in your lesson, not just that typical hand-raising student who ends up being super successful and leaving the other students to watch. Teachers need to continually check for understanding. I'm kind of surprised times when teachers aren't aware that students aren't prepared for assessments. If you're doing continual checks, students will be successful. And asking questions, how often or how long are you waiting for a response in that classroom? There are 2 wait times. There is a wait time after a question is asked, and then following the student's response. When we're doing that, we're allowing students not only to process the question, but to prepare answers in a more comprehensive manner. And after students respond to the question, some learners will need the time to process the response. The results of this is you will have lengthier, more complex, more complete and correct answers. If you need some suggestions on wait or pause time, they're very simple. After asking a question, you may provide turn and talk to your neighbor to respond to the question. You may ask or count the number of hands that are being raised to, again, give them a little bit more process time. Although it's best to have a quiet pause so students can really respond and think about the question that you're asking. So those total participation responses that you might provide would be like a think, pair, share, square. This allows students with the time to think about their answer, maybe doing a reflect, think, write, then becoming a pair, redefining their answer, and the pair finds another pair that is ready and becoming a square, and having an answer that is more comprehensive because students had more time to process, discuss, and refine their answers. So important for students to be successful in that classroom. Students really enjoy that total participation response process. They're all included. All students are accountable to respond. One of the easiest ways to pair them, spur of the moment, would be to throw on some music. And when the music stops, they would find the person closest to them, have the opportunity to talk, and be ready to respond. They've had time to process the information. Many of our learners need so much more additional time. Another silent way for them to all participate would be the silent discussion protocol. You can just cover the desk or table with a large piece of white paper. Every learner has a section on the paper. They can use words or pictures or phrases to represent one thing that they noticed. And when prompted, they just turn the paper and they read and respond to their partner's or their group member's response. This continues until you are back at your corner. And then you have the opportunity to see how other learners responded to your prompt or your cue or your visual. Again, increasing the comprehension of the material being presented. Another great way for total participation is to use structures such as the circle exchange, where you establish a signal for movement and attention. Students can count off by ones and twos. Ones create a circle and face out. Twos create the circle facing the ones. Students will share their information with the partner they are facing. At the cue, the ones then can take one step to the right or 3 steps to the right if you want different learners not to be together. So students share then with their new partner. This again allows for total participation techniques. There are so many components and so many strategies for you to engage your learners in the classroom and for checking for understanding, even with different cognitive levels of students being in your classroom. Maybe at some point everyone writes or everyone draws. Again, a quick check, formative assessment, to see if those learners are actually attending and comprehending and understanding what you're talking about while you're teaching. I look forward to seeing you again in April and to answer any additional questions you have on student engagement and to provide you with dozens more of engagement learning activities for you to incorporate into your inclusive classroom. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you then.